Today we're here in Huntington Beach with Big Boys Toys Auto Sales. They've got some pretty cool classic cars and interesting exotics. So I'll leave links in the description below for their website, their inventory, for you to go ahead and check it out. See, when I was looking for a car for this video, it was really hard to find. The 944 hit a price point where it made it hard to find clean examples. But here we actually have two. This is a 1990 944 S2. It's a convertible. These are super rare, and this one is in great condition. And this is the car actually that we came in here to talk about. It's a 1985.5 Porsche 944. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about why this car matters. Is it really a Porsche? Take it out for a drive and see what it's like on the road all these years later. So what exactly is the 944, and is it a proper Porsche? Well, to answer that, I'm gonna give you a bit of a history on what led up to this car. See, back in the 1970s, Volkswagen was looking for a two-door sports car, and they went to Porsche to have that designed and conceived. See, at the time, Porsche was much like McLaren. They offered engineering services outside of being a car manufacturer. Volkswagen's criteria was they wanted it to be as cheap as possible, and that meant using a lot of pieces and parts from cars that they were already developing and selling. So what you ended up with was the 924. Now, the 924 used an engine from a Volkswagen cargo van. It was a small four-cylinder, naturally aspirated, and made about 90 horsepower. Had a 4-speed manual, drum brakes, did 0 to 60 in over 10 seconds. So it was not a terribly fast car, but at the end of the day, Volkswagen just needed a cheap two-seater sports car. Unfortunately, they decided not to move forward with the car, and Porsche ended up buying that design back and badging it as a Porsche with really no changes whatsoever. So from a history perspective, a lot of people don't look at the 924 as a proper Porsche. That's why I questioned the 944. But after doing my research, I found a very different story. See, when Porsche took back the 924, they followed their very strict design ethos. Now, if you look at the 911, you'll notice that it looks pretty similar, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, every 911 is the same. But they're not. Every generation, they improve on their design. They find what they did wrong or what could have been done better, improve on that design, and release a better sports car. That's what makes Porsche such a great product. They're taking what they know and they're improving on it time and time again. So did they do that with this car? This is a 1985.5. Now, if we go back to 1982, we'll find that Porsche updated the 924 and released the 944, which of course is what we're sat in right now. Now, the 944 had a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder that was borrowed from the 928. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, well, the 928 was a V8. Yes, it was a V8. So they chopped that in half, made a couple of changes, and threw it into here. It made 150 horsepower and 142 pound-feet of torque. It did 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds, and it was mated with an all-new 5-speed manual. So gone was the 4-speed, gone was the Volkswagen cargo bus engine, and in came a bunch of Porsche parts. It also got disc brakes all around, an updated interior. It became a proper Porsche, and it did so by following Porsche's design ethos. Build a car, improve on it, time and time again. So to say that the 944 is not a proper Porsche because it was never made as one, I don't think that that would really be fair to the car, and it wouldn't be fair to its design, because it may have been originally commissioned to be a Volkswagen. And I can see why you would doubt the 924, but the 944 was designed and built by Porsche with the intent of continuing to be a Porsche. So what I want to do now is take it out on the road, take it for a drive, and see what it's like all those years later. Because after all, the most important part of any Porsche is how it drives. So we're here in the 944. In 1982, it was debuted, and in 1983, I believe it went on sale. So that means that this car, this generation, as it is today, is 40 years old. So it's pretty interesting to be driving a car that's that old. Now, 944s were extremely cheap for quite a long time, but they're not anymore. See, these cars have kind of come up, and I think it's because when a car hits rock bottom and they become extremely cheap, people buy them up, especially kids. And what do kids do? They drive them like crazy, they modify them, they slam them to the ground, they ruin the car. It's no longer the same car anymore. So when a car sits on the market at those lower price points for too long, all of the clean examples get bought up and you end up with just a bunch of destroyed 944s and 924s. So since that's happened, now the clean examples like this one right here, they end up costing a lot more. They're not cheap cars, but they're not expensive cars either. So if you want to buy into the Porsche brand and for whatever reason you don't want a Boxster, you could always look into the 944. I would definitely go and drive one first, because you want to make sure that you want this driving experience, because it's not really a luxurious experience. The road that I'm on right now is not rough by any means, but it's not smooth either. So you can feel a lot of the bumps, and there's some rattles and noises throughout the car, but that's to be expected. Come on, the car's 40 years old. When I'm 40 years old, I'm going to be making noises when I move around too. So why would you expect the car to be any different? But when you are cruising, car's in 5th gear, holding a decent speed, I'm doing 60. Well, it says I'm doing 60. I have no idea if I'm actually doing 60, but it's great. It's just like any other car. Now, there was something that I wanted to mention about this car that I found kind of interesting, and that has to do with its price. See, I always looked at the 944 and the 924 as being more of the entry-level Porsche, something that was built and designed to be a bit cheaper to get people into the brand. Now, that title was taken over by the Boxster in the late 90s, which I did a video on one of those, so I'll leave a link if you want to go ahead and check that out. But then I did a bit more digging into the price of this car. Now, I checked in a couple of different sources and I couldn't find a consistent answer. So if you know otherwise, or if what I'm about to say is completely wrong, please let me know in the comments below. But based on the research that I did, the 944 back in 1985 had an original MSRP of $36,000. Now, with some inflation calculations, that comes out to over $100,000 in today's money for a 4-cylinder sports car. Now, that's a crazy amount of money, but they sold extremely well. In fact, in the time span between 1983 and 1991, when the 944 was sold, Porsche shifted over 160,000 of these. So it was a great selling car, but I think that with all of the design components and it having a lot of bespoke parts specific to it and not sharing anything with the 911, ultimately it was replaced by the Boxster. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a comment below about what you thought, what you think of the Porsche 944. Do you agree with me that it is in fact a proper Porsche? Leave me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's a great way to support the channel. I definitely really appreciate it. The channel has been growing really well and I'm very, very happy with it. And that's all because of your guys' support. But that's all for this one. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.